up in a 9-bedroom Victorian house. It was always really busy. There was 11 of us all together. It's my dad had 2 wives. There was always people coming and going. My mum had married my dad in Kashmir after he claimed that his wife back in the UK was dying. My grandfather had always told her what a picture perfect country the UK was and what money it had. I pretty much had a good childhood. I looked like my mum. I had light skin, blue eyes, so I was quite popular at school. I pretty much fitted in with everybody else. It all started to change when I was 14 and taken to Kashmir, where men kept asking my parents if they could marry me. I guess mum and dad were under a lot of cultural pressure. Then I just thought it was all pretend. And even when one of my sisters overheard my parents discussing my engagement, I just thought that was the sort of thing that happened to big girls, not to me. Then when I was 15 and was back in the UK, there was a phone call from Kashmir asking when I was going over to be married. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 15. All hell broke loose when I said I wouldn't go. And that's when all the mental and physical torture began. My father would drop to the floor, clutching his chest, saying that I was giving him a heart attack. And my brothers and sisters would kill themselves, so they would kill themselves because of the shame I was bringing to the family. I got a really bad beating from my dad. That night, I remember I locked myself in the bedroom, but he kicked the door off its hinges and started screaming at me, "I'm going to kill you." I remember being so scared. I would lay there shivering from fear. That night I crept downstairs and ran to the local police station. They put me in foster care, which I didn't mind. It was kind of strange back then because although I didn't know anybody there, it was better than being around my family. Eventually my family got in touch and I ended going back to them because I was so scared they would kill me if I disobeyed them. When I got home, things didn't get any better. They called me Dad, saying that I was really disrespectful. I felt like such an outcast. I had to cook my own food in different pots and eat from different plates because they didn't want to even associate with me. A little while later, they tricked me to travelling back to Kashmir. They got my grandmother to phone to say that she was ill and that she was dying and she wanted to see everybody before she went. I was so naive back then. We all flew over, but when we got there we drove straight past my grandma's house. They told me I was being taken to a village to be married. I had no passport, no money and nowhere to run. I was still a child. The wedding day was on my 16th birthday to a man who was twice my age. He was 40. He looked like my dad. He had a moustache, big bushy hair. I begged him at the time to say, for me not to go and marry him, but he just laughed and he told me that basically why wouldn't he, he was getting a visa after all. I even begged the priest during the ceremony, but he just ignored me and carried on. On the wedding night, I had to go to my husband's house. that night he raped me. I couldn't believe this was happening to me. 1 month later, I flew back with my family to the UK. Everything sort of went back to normal for a time. I went back to college, trying to live pretty much a normal life, but I started drinking. 7 months after the marriage, I was told that my husband was coming back to England to live with us, and I realised I had to escape. One night, I ran away. I made a new life for myself. I was living on my own for 3 months, and eventually my family turned up. They dragged me back, kicking and screaming, and they got me home. My father just beat me continuously, and they kept me. I couldn't go anywhere on my own or be left in the house on my own because they didn't want me to run away again. Eventually, my husband was flown over. I couldn't be there anymore. I stayed there in that house for 9 months. Eventually, one day, I managed to escape. I contacted the FMU, the Forced Marriage Unit, and they also put me into a women's shelter. I now live several miles, hundreds of miles away from where my family are, and they haven't found me yet. That was 4 years ago. I'm now 23, and I have a 1-year-old child, and I've been in a relationship for 2 years. Finally, I'm happy for the first time in my life. I do miss my family, but I can't forgive or forget for what they have done to me. I know I'm not the only person who's ever been through this. And there's so many Asian families out there that have put their children through this. I can't understand because, especially now that I've got my own child, you want to protect, your children. I wish I could say that I still love my family, but it's hard. It's hard to love strangers.